Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installation event, Still Boxing. Today, we're going to go over the absolute crazy landscape in the last month of Australian boxing. Things have been going a little bit crazy right now, and there's a lot of people on the up and up. I'm talking your Treamoanas of the world and your Opetaias, which are still on top of the world. However, it's been very busy. Very, very busy time, and there's a lot of fights to be announced, and there's a lot of interesting things happening in the boxing landscape, especially in Australia, where we like to go and get a bit more specific on in this spot. The first one I want to really talk about is Sam Goodman and Nick Ball, the current WBA featherweight champion. Nick Ball's from the UK, and our Australia's own Sam Goodman is cruising around here in Australia, in Central Coast of New South Wales, looking to challenge for that title. Now, for those who are unaware, Sam Goodman suffered a really big cut over his eye quite recently in preparation for his fight with Inoue. Now, this really threw a spanner in the works for that man, and he ruined this opportunity for himself, essentially, maybe through a bit of mismanagement, whatever it may be. What it was he's got the initial cut, healed up. Inoue's team was like, yeah, we're going to give you another 6 weeks. After that, what's happened is that he's re-injured that eye. It's worse now and required a bit of plastic surgery to sort out, I believe, was the outcome of that. As a result, he ruined that opportunity with Inoue. Undisputed $1 million fight. He's the man. He's pound for pound, globally recognised. So now he's changed his campaign from what that was super bantamweight, where Inoue is, all the way up to featherweight to challenge for the WBA featherweight title against England's own Nick Ball. Interesting stuff. Now, Nick Ball is quite small for that division, actually. He's like 151 centimetres or something like that. But this bloke is an absolute pit bull. All right, he comes forward relentless. If you saw his last fight with TJ Doheny, man, it's a wacky fight. It was one of those ones that you're like, what is going on right now? Must have been some weird animosity going on, because I think after the first or second round, actually kicked him. He kicks him. Nick Ball kicks TJ in like the back of the legs. I'm like, what is going on here? However, what a lot of people don't know is that Sam Goodman's actually also fought TJ Doheny. And he's got the victory. So it's one of those sort of testers as well. So see how the styles matched up against it. Now, as we know, Sam Goodman is not known as a hitter. He's not a banger. He doesn't crack. At a weight division below, he didn't crack. Now he's up at featherweight. He's definitely not knocking anyone out anytime soon. However, a lot of people often would say, you verse no one good, you're a bum, this, that, you don't crack. Power is very important. It's a get out of jail free card, which is going to probably come into play a little bit later in this episode. However, he does not have that power. But what he's proven, I think time and time again, especially his last fight, I think against a guy named Varka, is that this guy just doesn't get hit. And as time and time again, he doesn't go down. He's mobile, he's agile throughout the whole thing. He's not cracking. He's got to keep you honest. But he's been so consistent in that spot. So now I'm really starting to think that you have to kind of put a little bit of respect on the name. He hasn't versed anyone crazy yet, nor he's been a world champion. He's been on the verge of a title contender. However, he's never fought for one yet and never been on that level. However, I'm very interested to see what this next step will be, because Nick Ball's relentless, man. This guy comes forward. He's going to keep cracking. He's going to throw combos, head movement. He's strong. He's very strong for his weight division. And this is going to be a good test to see if Sam can keep him off. Now, TJ Doheny is actually bigger than Sam Goodman. He actually can crack. He's got a bit of power. Though he was a bit older when he versed Nick Ball, he didn't quite, he couldn't keep him off him, essentially. TJ couldn't keep Nick Ball off him. He was swarming him. And like I said, he was old. Now, this is going to be the true test to see if Sam Goodman does and has the ability to keep Nick Ball off him, and someone like that, a fighter like that. He did against Varka, and Varka's a bit of a come forward, that Mexican sort of South American style, which is pretty entertaining. Done a number on him. He makes some boring fights, which is a double-edged blade. It's either got to be a good talker like Mayweather and these types of people if you want to fight like that and dominate. If you want to fight boring, you have to be a good talker. Sam isn't a particularly good talker. Australians don't really facilitate that type of behaviour. Very much tall poppy syndrome, these types of things. So it's a funny one. You might have to be the bad guy or something. Sam Goodman has actually got a little soft spot in my heart recently, all right? Even though we are from the same area, like I didn't have any particularly loyalty to him. However, what Sam did do, he was telling me not telling me, but he was telling the media, when his fight with Inoue couldn't go ahead, what happened was he had to steal food for his dog because the financials were all effed up. And this is a story we hear so much from so many fighters, but that true struggle that he did go through after that fight and that mental turmoil, because he's essentially thrown away $1 million payday. He was struggling to pay his loans, he's borrowing money off everybody. I think a lot of people could relate to that, and they could definitely relate to that. It was quite nice, and I'm like, okay, it really humanized him, and I'm like, this is just a dude. Anyway, so that fight's going to be coming up in Riyadh season, which is definitely a big payday and a big opportunity for Sam Goodman. In conclusion for this aspect of it, it's going to be a really come forward, aggressive fighter, some guy that can crack a pit bull in Nick Ball, the WBA featherweight champion. And we're going to see Sam Goodman's new campaign at featherweight to see how he's going to go here. Will his power improve? Can he keep these more high-level fighters honest? We'll definitely see. Another big thing that's happened in Australian boxing at the moment is Jai Opetaia versus Claudio Squero. Man, that dude busted his jaw. All right, it was a fight that we all knew was going. Squero was paying $26 to win. Jai Opetaia was paying $1.01. All right, it was a mismatch from the word go. Right, it was a stay busy fight. Let's get him fight up in Australia. Let's get his profile up, and he smashed him. Okay, he broke his jaw in 2 places, and hey, Jai Opetaia knows all about broken jaws because that's what happened against Mairis Briedis. He broke his jaw. As in, Jai Opetaia got his jaw broke by him. So he knew. And that was fine. But we got to see a lot of Australian stars from Tasman fighters, which have some fantastic guys on the up and up. It was quite nice afterwards to see that Squero probably couldn't, after surgery, he needed surgery in 2 places there, had a floating bit of bone in his jaw. You can go on our social medias and you can see actually the video on Instagram of them doing the assessment there. However, they were chilling out afterwards, really wholesome stuff. They're hanging out in the pool and stuff like that, just relaxing. So they made sure they got the best doctors and that type of stuff. So it showed them that real class. If you come over to Australia to fight, especially with the Tasman fighters stuff, they're going to really take care of you. And I definitely know Mick Francis and all that on a relatively personal level. And he definitely is a good guy like that. And he'll definitely take care of the guys that come over and fight a killer like Jai Opetaia. Now, in conjunction with that, what I do want to raise afterwards is that Jai Opetaia, he's there and he's a champion. He's pound for pound up there, one of the best fighters in the world. All right, the dude's serious. Dude's weird, man. He's a killer. Once he gets in his fight mode, you're like, Jesus, this guy's you don't want to be around him, and especially don't want to be his opponent. A few people called him out afterwards. Yeah. Gilberto Ramirez, who's the guy that has all the other 3 belts. What this guy was saying was like, yeah, I'll have a fight and I'll get to you, Jai. Yeah, don't you worry, brother. You don't want that smoke. You do not want to fight Jai Opetaia. You don't want that. You're going to get done. You're going to get done. It's going to be an interesting fight. He's actually quite big and he says, I want to go up to heavyweight. Yeah, okay, bro, do whatever you need to do. You're not going to last in heavyweight. I don't think Gilberto Ramirez, Zerto, will do very well in heavyweight. He needs to fight Jai Opetaia. He's not as dynamic, though he's a real nasty inside fighter, which you can smother Jai's work and do that type if he implements that type of game plan. But the guy doesn't have the same power as Jai Opetaia. Doesn't have the same explosivity, mobility as Jai Opetaia. So I think he gets done. Though it's going to be a really big fight, very interesting fight. Not one-sided, though. I don't think he'll get the victory. Another guy who's also called out Jai Opetaia, Benavidez. And I'm like, man, David Benavidez, you coming up from lightweight to versus Jai Opetaia? Bro, you can't hurt people at light heavyweight. What do you think you're going to do at cruiserweight against a killer like Jai Opetaia? David Benavidez requires himself to be a bully. He tries to bully people, all right? That's his style. He'll come in, lots of punches, in bunches. He's a great combination fighter, and I think he's a great fighter. But fighting at heavyweight, at cruiserweight against Jai Opetaia, who his style requires, he bullies people. That's his thing. He does it in a bit better of a way, like a bit of a more Soviet style or more purist boxing method, while David Benavidez will just come forward, just bashing people with combinations to the body and stuff. All right, at middleweight and super middleweight, he was bashing and bullying people. Goes up to light heavyweight, suddenly it stops. Suddenly the power isn't there anymore. Yeah, he's versing some pretty good fighters and stuff like that. However, he is not going to go to cruiserweight and bully Jai Opetaia. He is going to get fucking obliterated, I tell you, by Jai. He'll be tough, he'll take it for a little bit, but Jai is built different, I think, in this spot, and he's probably biting off more than he can chew. A lot of success, and I remember when I was in Orlando actually speaking to his family and all that, when they had a fighter on one of the card on the Tim Tszyu undercard, talking to Daddy Jose Benavidez Sr., and he was like, oh, yeah, Canelo doesn't want it, wants like a bloody $1 billion to fight me, whatever, fight our, David. I'm like, yeah, it's fair enough. Canelo's all about business these days. However, I think the success has gone to his head, biting off more than he can chew. Benavidez versus Zerto, yeah, that's interesting. I'll take that. Benavidez has a frame, I think, for the most part, to go up to cruiserweight. However, not to Jai Opetaia type cruiserweight. The person that everyone wants the Jai to verse is Alexander Usyk. However, this is a very interesting matchup. It's the only matchup in heavyweight that I'd like Jai Opetaia to actually take is against Usyk, because their size is a bit more similar. Their styles are pretty similar. Bear with me here. Their styles are similar, as in their boxes. One's not like a slugger, is what I'm trying to say. Usyk's a one-on-one type of guy. That's what I'm saying. But it's not a situation where the bigger guys, I think Jai would struggle with, because as I said, Jai requires to be a bully, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but if you're versing one of the bigger guys, you are potentially going to be, if you can't bully them, just like Benavidez can't bully up at cruiserweight, I don't think, just like Jai, who isn't a particularly big heavyweight, I don't think he could bully in heavyweights, especially against the bigger guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next aspect that we want to go over, the next fight, is Nikita Tszyu versus Michael Zerafa. This fight is probably the toughest fight ever for Nikita Tszyu. Zerafa is a great counterpuncher. He's been at the World Championship level, even though against Lara he got knocked out very, very quickly. But Lara, Nikita Tszyu is not Lara. That counterpunching and the boxing IQ is exceptionally good. Nikita Tszyu is a tough guy that comes forward and he gets hit a bit much. That's going to play into Zerafa's style. He's a great counterpuncher. He's a great boxer. You see what he did against Isaac Hardman, someone that came forward was tough. He absolutely dismantled him. Even though it was a number of years ago, going on 3, 4 now, perhaps, I feel like it's going to play into the style of Zerafa, and Nikita may be walking into a bit of danger right there. A hand injury has kept Nikita Tszyu out for the last 6, 7, 8 months since the Mazudia fight, which he took a bit of a beating and he almost lost. He said to the boxing public that he almost threw in the towel, and he managed to get Mazudia out there, Cohen. So with that said, this challenge may be a little bit of might be too much for Nikita to bite off. All right, I don't think he's that hungry. I don't think he can chew that big Zerafa meal in this spot. So that's going to be an interesting fight, an interesting build-up, because Zerafa is the bad guy, but I've heard he's actually a fantastic guy in the backgrounds of it. So he's a human being, and he's definitely taken on a different sort of role, especially his last fight against that his last fight. I think he broke his hand as well, so everyone's breaking their hands left and right, but you saw his class, and I think Zerafa's got it. We'll break that down more as we get closer to it. But Nikita Tszyu, I don't think it's a particularly good matchup for him. All right, furthermore, on the Opetaia undercard, we were meant to have the Treamoana Jr. We meant to see him fight. And let me tell you, the best possible thing could have happened to him. He's a great guy. He ended up saying his fighter pulled out and he went all the way to the US. He's going to the moon. Get out of my slipstream. And he went all the way up. And he versed some guy, Aleem, what was his name again? Aleem Whitfield. And during the build up to it, we had one of my favorites, Shannon Briggs. He's sitting there in the background and he's like, yeah, let's go, champ. Let's go. You tell him, champ. Man, I love that guy. He's so funny. The best hype man. If I ever have a hype man, I want him. He was there during the build up and the face off. Listen, Aleem Whitfield was not in the same category as Treamoana. He absolutely blew him out of there in one round. 8 fights, 8 knockouts. Treamoana's on a tear right now. He just got exposed to a big US audience in Madison Square Garden, and he's going big places. It's now becoming a situation where the potential for him to fight these guys like Murray, which probably would never happen in the first place, and a lot of these big Australian heavyweights, bigger Australian heavyweights, it's less and less, and it's diverged now because he's now pretty much on the international level. He's got the character, he's got the charisma, he's got the skill, size, explosivity, and power to be a superstar, and they want to preserve that because those types of heavyweights are very hard to find. He's just absolutely obliterating people. So how much more time he's going to spend on Australian shores is one thing, but let me tell you, he's gone rocket ship to the moon right now. He'll need a few more fights. I mean, 3 or 4, but he has to start stepping it up. We could see a big baby Miller situation going on here. Maybe not a Fabio Wardley yet. However, if Fabio Wardley versed him, I'd feel a bit worried for him. With that said, we've had Australia's own Justice Huni versus Fabio Wardley recently. And let me tell you this, I've never been so disappointed in my life. I was telling everybody, I'm like, brother, if you want to know, it's going to be Justice Huni on points. That's where you should put your money. And I was so right until I was wrong. Justice Huni was absolutely boxing the pants off Fabio Wardley. Absolutely boxing the pants off him. Could not hit him. He looked slow. He shut up that big crowd. He was going to the body, the shot selection, the counters. It was all there. It was all there. He was smoking him. Man, I tell you what, Queensberry guys, they're looking a bit upset. They're looking a bit shocked. Eddie Hearn, big smiling motherfucker. Big smile saying, he's winning. I knew it was going to happen. And me too, I thought, guaranteed. I was sitting there laughing. I was up early. Justice Huni, our boy's gone for a version of the WBA heavyweight title. And then suddenly, the great equalizer. The power punch. And we knew Fabio Wardley had power. We knew he had power late. I think it was round 11. Knocks him down. Knocks our boy Justice Huni down. And I think it might have been a bit of a quick count and a quick wave off. If I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to be brutally honest, and it's something that you probably couldn't argue, but if it's a version of the heavyweight title, if it's something on such a large scale where you give that challenger an opportunity to get up and shake it off. Yes, Fabio Wardley is a brutal finisher. However, he's won every single round pretty much at this stage. He was smoking him. He was going to win the fight. They quickly waved it off. Oh, no, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, all good. Wave it off. And I think that was a bit of a joke. I don't think that is right. I think they should have given the man, a challenger, a bit of an opportunity to win this fight, because the referee surely has to show some discretion, be like, oh, okay, this guy's winning. He's won every round. He's smoking him, in fact. Hasn't really been hurt. If anything, Fabio Wardley's the one that looked hurt. Then they waved it off. Everybody's opportunity. Fabio Wardley, liar, said, we had it in the bag the whole time. Yeah, I was just waiting for it. Pfft, waiting for nothing, brother. You're waiting for nothing. You were getting smoked. And then the power, the great equalizer in the heavyweight division, you managed to get a punch as he probably squared up on the center line a little bit more. That's what it was. You're not going to win a rematch. And it just really annoyed me, because Fabio Wardley, even though, I respect him, he has good power, but you weren't winning that fight. You got lucky with that one punch. And it's not like when we watched when we watched Marquez fighting Pacquiao, when he knocked him out with that one big punch, the overhand right as it was coming in. You know the one I'm talking about. If you know, you know. But you can see a few times in training, in some of the clips, you saw him throwing that punch. And you actually saw him throwing that punch a few times during the fight because he's trying to time him coming in and hit him with the power. You never saw Fabio do this. He just threw a big one and it connected. You got to, sure, he's a little bit dazed for sure. He went down, but then they waved it off a bit quick. So I think he got a bit of a get out of jail free card there. And if he had the rematch, I would have to give it to Huni again. But the way Huni handled that, he was like, hey, head up, chin up, we'll be back. He took it in stride real well. And it's one of those fights where his stock went up. It's one of those fights where you lose, but your stock went up. Not unlike when Klitschko lost to Lewis. It got called off. He was smashing him and he got called off because of the cut over Klitschko's eye, Vitaly Klitschko's eye. And his stocks went up during that fight because he was beating Lennox Lewis. All right. Then we've also have our boy, George Kambosos versus Richardson Hitchens. I did not expect a round 8 KO. I thought Hitchens hasn't really displayed that power previously. He went to the body, which is pretty vulnerable because George does have that long torso. And it's one of those things where it was a bad stylistic matchup for him. It was very much a Haney-esque sort of fight, where that long-range, slick American boxer was outscoring him, and he was having a big issue trying to close the distance there. He was trying to go to his body, but he said he probably banded it. George said he probably banded that body attack a bit more, went to the head. And that's fine. He really demonstrated a rocket jab, great outside fighter, punch variation, ended up taking him out to the body with like a perfect shot. And I agree with George, I don't think many people would have managed to stand up to that shot, but he nailed him with it and caused a bit of damage. And he went down, couldn't get back up. He was already hurt to the body previously to that, so it was a good win all in all. What's next for George? Not sure. I know he's got a big fight here in Australia against Paro. I mean, that's always something. Maybe get a win in with somebody else. Come back to Australia, maybe have a fight, and then got a big Paro fight, which should be a big money fight, and then we'll see where we go from there. But I'm not sure where he wants to go in what direction there, so I can't comment. But there's always going to be that Paro fight, which I would think is a pretty good Australian showdown, which would be nice at 140. That'd be a very interesting fight. Definitely get me there. Now, these last two fights that I wanted to talk about is Tszyu versus Fundora and Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barros. These probably deserve their own videos. However, my initial thoughts here is I'm not sure if Tszyu's the same fighter is that we saw when he was versing or previous to Bakram Murtazalayev. I don't think he's that same guy. He's taken quite a significant amount of time off to get his head right. But after those back-to-back losses against Fedora, then Bakram, I think there's a lot of damage that accumulated during those. I'm not saying his drive isn't the same, but against... I don't think I think the improvement that he's made in comparison to the improvements that Fundora has made, I think Fundora's got the X factor. The dude's 6'6" at that weight division. The dude's huge, and I feel like the ability for Tim to close that distance and try and replicate what he did back in when he first fought him before the cut, which I think in that first fight he would have won. I was very confident in that. That cut came and caused a lot of issues, but you got to remember the nose of Fundora was just a tap. Okay, you got to remember that as well. And he also made corrections. I think when they fight again, I'm going to have to give the edge to Fundora this time, I'm afraid. 6'6", he's made the improvements. He's versed him before. He's not a bad boxer. He's a world champion. He's going to keep him on the outside. I think his improvements that he's made to fight on the outside are known and it's seen. We've seen a Joey Spencer fight from Tim, and he looked good in it. He looked very good. But Joey Spencer, I don't think is as good as Fundora. He doesn't have the X factor, that huge height. So with that said, I don't think Tim is as a favourable position to win this particular fight. Even though it's going to be a great fight, I'll definitely be tuning in, but I might have to give the edge to Fundora here, if I'm going to be brutally honest. The height, his improvements in comparison to Tim's back-to-back losses. Well, obviously he's beaten, Joey Spencer, but I think he's versing someone a little bit different this time around. And I never want to see him to verse Bakram Murtazaev again. I don't think that's a very good matchup. And finally, Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios. Manny, I think you're a bit old. That last fight against Ugas that you lost, I hate to see legends try and run it back. I hate to see them try and turn back time. I feel like Pacquiao's turn back time moment was against Keith Thurman. Not now. I think he's done. Just go into the sunset as an 8-division champion. Just be happy. Be happy that you've done something that probably no one will ever do, probably again, especially in our lifetimes. Be happy that you're bloody going to be president one day. You're a big governor. All right? Leave that boxing. His style required a young man's style, a young man's energy. And I think it's done. He's going to be versing someone that's quite capable in Barrios. These guys will require their own videos, but that's my initial thoughts, that I don't want to see a Manny Pacquiao, even though he's a big name still, and he's a cool dude, what we've seen, but I don't want to see that. Anyway, these have been my initial thoughts and some ideas that are going on in Australian boxing right now. I just wanted to give a bit of a recap. Very interesting things happening. I think all in all, Australian boxing's in a pretty good space right now. However, I think we still need to probably just develop and keep our eye out for these young guys coming up and coming through. Guys like Treamoana, guys like Justice Huni, supporting these guys, because they can be a big deal. And of course, Opetaia, which is probably easily the best boxer in Australia right now, one of the best champions that we've had. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Guy McKinnon, and this is Then Still Boxing. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the channel for future content.